thanks so much for stopping by. Today, we're going to be making burnt ends without the $75 brisket. I'll show you how it's done. It's really an easy cook, it's fun to do, and absolutely delicious. If this is your first time stopping by, thanks for joining us, appreciate it. If you're a returning viewer, by all means, I certainly do thank you. So I'm using a combination of hickory and post oak pellets in the smoker. I really like that for a good Texas barbecue flavor, especially when I'm doing beef. Now what we're going to do today is, instead of using the actual brisket, we're going to use a boneless chuck roast. I'll show you how we prepare it, what it takes to smoke it, and then how to get that amazing, delicious, glazy, candy-like coating over the end of those burnt ends. Let me get this thing fired up and I'll show you how we prep the chuck roast. So we're starting with about a 3-pound boneless chuck roast. This thing is probably 2 fingers tall if I measured it, so I don't know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. When you select this, you want to look for one that has some nice thin marbly lines in it. What you don't want is some with a very thick grizzle line. Like this has a bit of grizzle right here. You can kind of see this here. That's got a little bit of that grizzle on it. That's not going to render out, but these thin lines like this, all this marbling, that's going to render out. That's flavor, that's moisture. That's exactly what we want to see. So I was going to cook this yesterday and I ended up not doing that. So what I did was I sprinkled just a little bit of salt on it and I went ahead and put it into the refrigerator uncovered. It's a little bit of a dry brine, if you will. And I really just did that because I changed my mind on when I was going to cook it. So now we're going to go ahead and put some rub on here. This is just salt, pepper, garlic, a little bit of chili powder, a little bit of brown sugar. You can make your own rub really easy. Just mix together the classics. Salt, pepper, garlic is always a great place to start. If you want to add a little bit of onion powder, a little bit of chili powder, a little bit of brown sugar for some stickiness, and a little bit of sweet, that's always good as well. Now we're going to get this on all sides here. Just going to pat this down a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and flip it over and repeat the whole process on the other side.
Over here. Yeah, right here. Hey, do me a favor. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more like it, subscribe to the channel and click on that little bell notification so you get notified of new videos. Thanks.
Now the purpose of this seasoning is twofold. One, obviously it's going to give it some great flavor. The other thing it does is it helps form a bark. And we're going to cook this a little bit like you might a brisket. So we're going to cook this thing right on the grates like this. When we get up to an internal temperature of about 165, what they call the stall, we're going to do the Texas crutch. We're going to wrap it. And we're going to wrap it in butcher paper because it'll help keep it a little bit more dry and it'll get that nice bark that we want to form on the outside of it. And that's going to be important because we're going to end up doing these things into small little cubes. It'll be real nice to have that bark on 2 sides of every bite. All right, get my hands cleaned up here and then we'll get this thing put on the smoker. You typically let your seasoned meat sit until it begins to form this moist look to it. That's when the moisture from the meat has been extracted out enough to go ahead and form that sort of starting bark. Mine is just about formed, it's not quite there, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it in because this is still coming up to temperature. We are at, about 180 or so. We're gonna be cooking this at 225, nice low smoke. I like to use a little aluminum tray, a little disposable tray right underneath where I'm going to be smoking this. Some of that fat will render out and form down in the bottom of that, and that's where we're going to actually glaze our burnt ends. So just added flavor when we get to that point. All right, let's go ahead and get this guy placed on here. All right, that's looking good. I'm not even going to probe this now. This will probably cook for about 3.5 hours. An hour or so, I'm going to come out, I'm going to spritz it a little bit, just with water. All I want to do is get that moist again and let it dry back out. Moist and dry back out. That's what forms our really nice bark on the top of the actual roast here. So let's get this closed up, and we'll see y'all in another hour or so. So this has been on for about 3 hours now. We're going to take it out and we're going to go ahead and wrap it. Call it Texas crutch. Some people do it in foil. I'm going to do it in butcher paper. Let's just go ahead and get this rolled out. Do 2 sheets about that size so I can just roll it right on each other. All right, we've got these overlapping here, and I'm just going to go ahead and take the brisket out and place it right on here. We'll get it wrapped up using some heat-proof gloves. Looks good. We're just going to go ahead and wrap this up, and it looks like I can probably wrap it in just one thing of paper here instead of both. I'm going to get it right there, fold it over, and I like to fold the sides up. And just roll it, if you will. Fold that back over, and we'll put it right back in like this. Now, I'm going to probe through the paper so I can monitor the temperature inside of it once we put it back on the smoker. Place this guy right back here in the smoker. So my probe's able to touch it. It is. Push that right into the center of it, so we'll keep an eye on the temperature down inside. Now we're going to cook this until we're at about 200 to 210 degrees. That should be nice and tender at that point. Then we'll cube it up and we'll finish up those burnt ends without the brisket. All right, this guy's been on for, geez, better part of 6.5, 7 hours. I'm going to go ahead and probe it and check the temperature. So shockingly, that thing is still only sitting at about 185 degrees. I'm going to crank it up to about 300 for probably the last hour just to get that up over 205 so we can go ahead and glaze it. I don't want to run out of daylight, so I'm going to speed up the cook just a little bit, but it's got plenty of smoke from all day long. So this is right now at about 210 degrees on the internal temperature. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out of here. Put it right up here on the cutting board. Okay, let's unwrap this. We're going to let this sit for probably about 10 minutes before we cut it up, and we're going to prepare our burnt ends. Again, we're making burnt ends without the brisket. That looks great. I've got a magic trick. Watch this. I'm going to lift her automatically. Up, come up, up. It worked. Actually, I'm going to go at about a 1-inch cube because that's what we ultimately want for our burnt ends.
That kind of looks good.
Actually looks a lot drier than I thought it was going to be. All right.
You want to get some of that spice in there then?
In just a minute, we're going to cut this in 1-inch slices.
Get into the frame. Really quick.
The reason we're doing 1-inch slices is we're going to turn these and we're going to cut them again in 1-inch slices. You want to taste a bite?
Just tiny little bite.
All right, now I'm going to cut each of these in 1-inch squares. I'm going to put them right in our little tray over here. Come on over here. Did you just run off and steal a piece? Is it good? Yeah? We're going to take these and we're going to drop them in this little aluminum tray here. Again, we're going to cut these 1-inch squares on all of it. Then we're going to coat each of these with barbecue sauce. Now you can make your own barbecue sauce, add a little bit of brown sugar. It's another great way to do it. And then we're going to cook these for about another 20 minutes or so until they get unbelievably coated. It's almost like candied beef. It's amazing.
Can I see some thin slices?
Here you go. There's just some good ones right there. All right, now we're going to just coat these guys with a nice barbecue sauce. I'm actually using this original Bold from Barbecue Pit Boys.
I have some barbecue sauce. Yay! Oh, he is. Yeah.
There you go. Might have to try another piece of this.
What?
You just want to mix these up so that you coat all sides of them with this barbecue sauce. We're just gonna wrap this in foil and we're gonna put it back in about 20 minutes or so. And these will get candied. They'll be amazing. Again, indirect heat, so we're gonna put that on the top burner. Put this right back in there. All right, these have been on for about 30 minutes or so, maybe 45. It is time to get these out and check them out. Put them right up here, see how they look. All right, let's get these guys opened up. Oh, that smells amazing. Let me show you these things before it gets dark and then we'll give one a try. Just take a look at that. That looks amazing. So I gotta tell you, the question, right, is it as good as brisket burnt ends? No, it's not quite. If brisket burnt ends are a scale of 100, on a 1 to 100, this is probably a 90, maybe an 85. The difference though is brisket right now, for a full packer brisket, my local store is running 75 to 85 bucks. This was $17. So if you just want the burnt ends, that's a pretty good deal. And when you go to the store, just look for one that has that nice thin marbled fat in it. You definitely want one that's a little bit fatty. Don't try and find a nice lean cut, because that's ultimately not what you want for this type of a dish. Do one more. Sun's about to go down. We'll see you guys next week for another grilling video. Thanks so much for stopping by.